Good morning, producer Rachel.
Good morning, Tom. I miss your face so much. You have no idea.
I know we should have webcammed a lot sooner. How long has it been? It's been like, what, about 16 years, maybe?
16 years, probably. Yeah, I think about 15. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow. You were one of my favorite parts walking into the Steve Vikki morning show on Star 94, into that studio, seeing that smiling face every day.
Oh, wow. Wow. You were mine as well, because you always brought me the freshest cup of coffee. Yes.
I love you so much. Is it tiring to be like so happy all the time, or are you not happy all the time? When I was with you, it was always, you just had that great positive energy. And I don't know if it's because you felt like you had to be that person, or you just are that person.
I think it's the best way to be. I mean, listen, you can walk around going, God, the world sucks, or, I'm going to make the best out of it I can. So, I saw this movie back in the late 90s called The Secret. And it's about what you manifest and put out is what you're going to get back. And I'm an Aquarian. So we always have this kind of like, we're the wind and water sign, and we're just kind of free spirits. And so I just love lifting people up. It's kind of like my whole deal.
Well, and The Secret, you were the one that gave me the CDs. You ripped off the CDs and then you gave them to me because you were like, oh my God, you have to watch this thing. Well, it changed, I think, at least started to set the pace for how things were going to change in my life, which is so incredible when you start to really think like, oh, I'm the creator of the reality that I live in. So just like you were saying, do I have to wake up every day and like be a dick? No, I can wake up and be happy.
Oh, I thought you said, do you have a dick? I wasn't quite sure. Okay. You never know.
It unfortunately took me a really long time to understand that I'm in control of how I react to a situation. It took me until I was 49, probably last year. Yay. It took me a really long time. Well, because I was the type of person that was like blaming everybody else for how I was reacting. And it's like, no, I don't have to get angry. I don't have to be mad about the situation. It took me a long time.
Yeah. We worked with Steve McCoy. And so producer Jake at the time, he would, Jake was a pretty laid back guy, very chill, but then sometimes Steve would push his buttons and I would see the explosion, but Steve pushed all of our buttons in a loving way. But you know what? I think it's, I'm mostly like this 90% of the time. And then a few times I'll pop off, I'll
pop off. I would love to see you popping off.
That was on my OnlyFans channel. Sorry.
That's extra, guys. That's extra.
Right. That's after dark. Okay.
Well, let's talk about your start in radio, because did you always know you wanted to be in radio? You started when you were a teenager. Well,
I did. I listened. I grew up at Hilton Head Island every summer. My mom and dad had a place down there in Palmetto Dunes. And get back then in the 70s, you could buy an oceanfront lot for $25,000. That's saying a lot. Okay. Now they're $3 million. But I listened to Casey Kasem all the time on the radio down there. And there was a local radio station on Hilton Head Island, WQXI. And I just listened to that and just always started mimicking the announcers on TV. And my mom would say, stop talking like that. I'd go, good morning. Good morning, Mom. And so I just kind of developed a love for it, through Casey Kasem. Then Rick Dees was a huge fan. I loved him.
Rick Dees was huge. And then how did you actually get started in radio, though? Like, who was like, hey, we're going to give you a job, kid?
Well, I was what we affectionately call a contest pig, where from our local radio station, was called WQXI. And it was a powerhouse. As a matter of fact, I've got this right here. I got this. They handed these out at the mall, and if you were spotted wearing these in the 70s, you won some money. And so I would go by the radio station at 2970 Peachtree Street, and I would just hang out and look through the window, and I'd win prizes. And so I started winning in other people's names.
The amazing AM 79 WQXI Atlanta.
Got a winner. Tommy Sullivan of Atlanta was the first one through.
What's your name?
Tommy Sullivan.
Who's on the phone?
Tommy Sullivan.
Hello, who's on the line?
Tommy Sullivan.
Tommy Sullivan again, you lucky man.
Hello, who's on the line with me?
Grant Whitaker.
Okay, what's your name?
TJ Sherritt.
Hi there, who's on the line with me?
Steve Vine.
Who's this?
Roland Pritchett.
Hello, who's on the phone?
David Sampson.
I got Chet Lacey on the phone. Hi, Chet.
Pretty good. How are you?
Did you register for the 924 Porsche we're giving away?
I sure did. We were listening for my name. Bobby Lang.
How are you, Bobby?
Pretty good.
Well, you're the 18th caller, man.
That's great.
Okay, what's your number one radio station?
79 WQXI.
And then they decided, hey, we have an opening for a mascot. Do you want to be the radio station Quixie Quacker? Because we were called WQXI Quixie. And I said, yes, I do. And that was in 1978. And that's how I started my career. I got my web foot in the door.
Hello, who's on the phone?
All right. Tommy Sullivan.
Tommy, you're the third caller. You are a winner.
That's great.
You
Quack,
just
quack.
won a Quixie Quacker.
All right.
What do you think about that, Tommy?
Well, that's great. I've always wanted to be one.
Tom, what's your number one radio station?
Quixie and Dixie.
The Quixie Quacker will also be making a special guest appearance. Big star now, folks. It's all gone to his head. I believe he's even in the paper today. He's becoming very big now.
And I worked my way up from overnights. I remember in 1978, on Christmas Eve, I got to go on the AM station, WQXI, and say the ID once an hour. And by 3 a.m., because I started at midnight, at 3 a.m., I was breaking format and playing my own vinyl.
I believe it. I absolutely believe that would be you.
Yes.
What was the mascot, like a full mascot costume?
It was.
But it's radio.
But no. But see, we did appearances and remotes. And so I was the Quixie Quacker duck and put on this big duck suit, and I walked around with the call letters on me, and I just, it was like the friendly animal that represented the radio station. So
You were the perfect person for that, though, because just the energy exuding from that costume, I can't even imagine.
Oh yeah, I used to go to concerts at a place called the Omni, and we'd give away these buttons. We'd order like 10,000 buttons that that say hey, 94Q, which was our sister station, welcomes you, and I'd pass them out. And there was a friend of mine from another rock station called 96 Rock, Rocky Raccoon, and she and I would go and take our heads off in the lounge, and then get back out there and pass out buttons to the the thousands of fans. It was a great time.
Well, first of all, wow, promotions budget for buttons. That's amazing.
Oh, it was.
Look
I
out,
know.
radio station. Oh,
Now we can't squeeze a dime out of a penny,
No. Shirts. What shirts? No shirts. So then when you started working with Steve Vikki, did they pick you, or were you at the radio station already working other shifts?
So I was, I started on the AM station, Quixie, and then one night I was at home in the 90s. No, it was in the 80s, late 80s. And I got a call from our program director, Jim Morrison, saying, hey, because it's icing outside, the overnight girl, Karen Harrison, can't get down her driveway. Do you want to go on the air? And I was at home watching Johnny Carson in my pajamas. And I got cold all over, and I got so nervous. I said, yeah. And I went in there, and I couldn't believe it. You remember our first shifts, right? How nervous you were. And that's how it all started. I got on the FM as part-time. They started to like me, and I did overnights, and then I got to do some daytime shifts. And then probably I'd say when the Olympics came to town in 1996 of Atlanta, that they wanted to put me on the morning show as a roving reporter to cover the games.
Tom walks into an IHOP and catches up with the U.S. gymnastics team.
Why don't you tell us who you are?
I'm John McCready from the men's Olympic team. I'm Amanda Borden. I'm Dana Miller.
Amanda. Hey, I'm Tom Sullivan from Star 94. Running the torch, was that the most awesome moment? It was.
In front of your hometown, Atlanta.
Exactly. Being in front of the whole world.
And that's how I got on the morning show with Steve Vikki. And they made me their adventure guy to do all the crazy stunts and go out and eat off someone's plate at the Waffle House and, go shower in a stranger's home and all that stuff.
Okay.
You could never do that today. You'd be shot.
No. I was just going to say, a lot of the stuff that you did, we could never do again.
It's Atlanta's Star 94, Steve Vikki. Tommy,
Yeah?
are you next to somebody?
Yes. I'm so nervous.
Just reach over.
Stab the meat.
That looks great.
Okay. Hey, that looks pretty good. Can I try some of that? What? No. Okay, all right. I'm eating it now. Why'd you do that? I hope you don't mind.
Take a piece of toast.
Hey. What the hell are you doing? Got 10 seconds to leave before I call asleep.
Whoa!
Do you have a stressful job? Oh, sure. I work too many hours. Do you think maybe I could just give you a little tiny massage on your shoulders? What are you talking about? Get out of my car now.
I heard of you because you made national news for one of your stunts. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yes, I believe you're talking about All I Want for Christmas is a President campaign. And this was during 2000 with the Hanging Chads in Florida and Bush and Gore running for president. And so Vicky Locke, one of the, the other half of the morning show, she says, let's put Tom under the Riches Macy's great tree. And he'll stay up there until we have the election decided. So on December 1st of that year, I went up on the roof, and actually as a native Atlantan, I grew up, going to see the great tree every year. So, and I love Christmas. So to be there under the great tree was like a dream. And I climbed up there every day and gave it 100 aspirin, in this gigantic pot. And it became, I was up there about 2.5 weeks, and it became a big, huge promotion juggernaut. We got 15 media things, 15 or 16, and our PR guy, Alan Hennis, orchestrated it all. God rest his soul. And we went on CNN twice, and it was just, they treated me like a king. I loved it. The best part, Rachel, was that I got to, how they didn't like us plugging free businesses. They said, you can plug anybody you want, because they fed me. So on day one, this is a great story. On day one, there was this little tea company in the mall named the Elephant Tea Company. And Nancy was the lady who owned it with her husband. I think his name was Andy. And they would bring up tea, and they brought me teapots. And every day I was going, thanks to the Elephant Tea Company, Elephant Tea Company. Finally, get this, fast forward about a few years, they turned into Tivana, which was at malls.
Oh my God.
And then fast forward into a few years later when Starbucks goes, here's $680-something million. We want to buy your business. And then they shut it down just so they could get it off the market. So.
Oh my gosh. They became Tivana, this little tea company bringing you tea every day.
Yes.
That's insane.
Wasn't that awesome? And I said, I called him up the day. I said, Andy, hey, remember me? Remember 680 million? Throw me some change.
He gave you some tea bags. Here you go, bud. I want to go back to something because a lot of times, especially in radio, TV, in these vanity jobs, they refer to us as vanity jobs.
By the way, how's my lighting? Is my lighting okay? Oh.
Your lighting is perfect. You're beautiful as always. I mean, you're such a very handsome man.
All right.
You were in the right place and you said yes. It's usually someone's sick, someone can't make it in, something's happened to the host, and you have to be in a space where, like, were you scared? Yes. Were you frozen to death? Yes. But you said yes. And I think that's a huge thing in life to learn. Like, when the opportunity comes, say yes. And because it changed the whole trajectory of your life.
It did, didn't it? It's kind of like, making yourself available. And my mom says they're taking advantage of you at the radio station. I got passed over for raises all the time, but I love what I did. And I tell everyone, do everything you can possibly do to end the job outside of it being on the air. Like, going here, working the remotes to make yourself more valuable. And that way they'd think twice about getting rid of you, because I was doing the jobs of like 3 people,
Well, you were board opping and you were hosting and you were on the street. Let's talk about being on the street, because I think you were one of the earlier like street people or like, I don't know how to, what would you like, on the street reporter or like, right? I don't know. What are you like?
Here's how it started. So
what do you call yourself?
Well, we
the
were owned
funny
by
guy that does.
Well, that's so funny. Well, we were owned by Jefferson Pilot and later became owned by Lincoln Financial, at Star 94. And so we had a sister station in Denver. And there was a guy there named Larry Ulibarri. Oh, what a great name, right? And so they flew me out there to train with him, to learn how to be a street guy, to learn how to do stunts, not be afraid or, hold back, and what you had to kind of engage, how you could do things to engage the audience. So I went out there, and when I came back with a $800 bill from my expensive hotels and dinners out every night, they said, you must have learned a lot. I said, I sure did.
I sure did.
Yes.
Well, the funny thing about you is it didn't matter how much we planned. It didn't matter how much we thought the outcome would be going into it. You're incredible at feeling the energy in a room, feeling the energy of a person. You're hilarious on your feet. even though sometimes we were telling you what to do, like you're amazing at like seeing where the funnier is, and then also just reading people and knowing like who's going to go on this journey with you, right? Like,
yes.
And then sometimes did you get run out of places? Yeah.
Oh yeah. But you're one of the. I don't know if you still have the Steve Vikki CD, but there was a whole bunch of. I still have a lot of my adventures, and there's one where I went to a cowboy western bar, and because we were playing the Broncos, right? And in a big game, and so Vikki goes, and Steve Vikki, we're going to send you out there, and you're going to get on the bucking bronco. Well, we're live on the air, and so the bucking bronco goes up like that, and you're sliding down, and I was in tight jeans already, and I started yelling, "Oh my God, my balls, my footballs!" And Vikki fell out of the chair. But things like that, you just kind of like it just evolved,
He's already complaining. It hasn't started.
I should have worn my protective gear, if you know what I mean.
We don't have a Star 94 cup, do we?
Yeah, we do, but it's the wrong size. Okay, listen. I am so nervous. Start off slow. No, Frank! Oh, my footballs! Okay. Woo, baby! Okay. Slow it down. Frank! Don't shit. My balls, stop for a second. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Are we live on the air? Yes. Oh, my God. I'm hurt.
You're hurt.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm getting off.
You hardly rode the thing.
I'm Steve.
Was your goal to make Steve McCoy laugh? Because we knew Vikki would laugh. Because Vikki, was like your number one fan. She would pee her pants every day.
She would. I thought that Steve, I was a little hesitant when I went to go work with Steve, Steve McCoy, big, huge legacy in radio. And I didn't know how he would embrace it, but, as a matter of fact, remember when, during the Olympics, I never had a microphone in the control room. I always would run in there to add something, but it was too late by the time I got down the hall into the studio that they were off the air. And so one day I remember after New Year's, I think it was 1997, I said, you know what? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sit down like I always do when they first sign on the air, and I'm not going to leave. And I just stayed there. And he welcomed me eventually, and I became became a third mic, and so I was able to stay a part of the show.
I think that's amazing, and I'm glad you took that chance. He's still in control of that board, which we all know. He could shut your mic off if he doesn't want you to talk, which he did to me many times.
And Vikki too. He would ride the mics. He would have his finger on the mic.
All the time. At all times, he had. Well, he would make sure was in position, and then he would have his finger on yours and Vikki's.
Yeah, yes. and he would have his up higher. But you could see him over there. Remember, you could see him on the side.
Oh, because where I sat I looked right over exactly what he was doing. So I knew immediately when I saw, like, if I started to talk and he turned me down, I was like, oh, there we go. I'm not going to say anything. And we're done.
Oh my God, you were great. You brought so much great energy, and plus we loved you on the air, and you contributed so much too. Like you became one of our best producers.
I think it's one of those things where when you're hired for a show, because when I came on, you guys had been on for I think 17 years by then. It was a heritage show, and so when you're up against Q100 and Bert, who at the time, now he's been on for how long now? That's so crazy too. That's mind-blowing. But he was the new guy at the time. And so when you're taking on the new guy, and then you guys are the ones that are aging as the heritage show, and then you bring on this young new producer, like, I totally understand. Steve was like, what is going on here, right? You're set in your ways. You do the thing. We became this number one station by doing what I've been doing. But then you have to pivot. You have to sort of change. You have to figure out other ways to gain an audience and keep the audience. You know what I mean?
That was part of the problem with Steve, because, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And so he wanted to hold on to some of the benchmarks that had become a staple of his on-air personality. And as Bert came on the air and they started taking away our listeners, to a younger audience, he he still wanted to rely on doing things his way. And then when he went over to B98.5, over there at the time, it was either you're going to be Coxified because they were owned by Cox. And so he did things his own way. And they finally just said, okay, you're out after a year or so. But I'm telling you what, I got to be a part of it. The best part.
You were you were there at that like sweet spot. You really were. And the sweet spot in radio, I mean, radio is not where it used to be. You were at a time when they cared about personalities. They cared about local. And you were applauded for the chances that you took. And I'm so proud of you for like sticking with your gut, because you didn't do things because you wanted to just be on the radio. You did things because you understood storyline. You wanted to move the story along, and you really just wanted to entertain people and make people laugh. Mm-hmm. I mean, that really seemed like what your daily idea of life was just like, how can I make people forget about the ick and just make them laugh today? Did you consciously go in every day thinking about that? Or did you just go in like, whatever, I'm just going to give it my best and whatever happens, happens?
That's how I did it. I would roll out of bed. I lived very close to the station at the time, and I would roll out of bed and go, okay, it's 5:02. I've got to get out now, no shower. And I can get up there and plug my mic in. And I just love to be their reaction. They planned a lot, but I love bouncing off them and adding color to it. And that's because when I always did what Steve would call a left turn. He would be talking about something and I thought it was I said, this is so tediously boring. I would throw something else in there, like here's a ball.
Tom, that sounds like a flaw actually in the program.
Sounds like a Tom Sullivan left turn.
You just heard a Tom Sullivan left turn.
Left turn.
Left turn.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, was that a left turn? It was just like a fault of error on.
I don't think so, Tom.
The information was.
No, I don't think so.
Stupid
information.
Keep up with a watch.
Time is up for the program today. Thank you, Tommy, for playing our game.
Next.
Well, I think, do you have ADHD? I have ADHD.
What's that?
Is it undiagnosed or diagnosed?
Well, I don't. I try to cut back on my sugar intake.
So, right. So like short form content is how my brain works. And he was from sort of a long form brain. And I was like, this is not how people listen to things anymore. Mm-hmm. They're short form. It's quick. We got to get in and out, make them laugh, hit it on that laughter and get out.
Yes. How many people have already?
Brain works
how many people have already tuned out of this because it's too long?
Listen.
I hope not.
No, I break them up into shorts and they watch the shorts. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it. If they want to learn more, they'll watch the whole thing. People like what they like. It is what it is. Yeah. All right. So obviously we have to talk about one of the most famous things that you're known for.
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
I do. And I'm just trying to make sure it's nothing dirty. Let's see. No, it's not. Not the time I spent on a farm. Okay, I'll get back to that. You're talking about, okay, let's not reveal. Let's reveal. Let me tell the story. So in 1992, in January, I got a call from a guy who goes, I go to Dunwoody High School and I want to learn more about pop culture. I do the morning announcements. I thought, please hold. I said, I got a kid on the phone here wants to get into radio. Another one, because, I work 7 to midnight and I was getting all these calls, but I want to get into radio, So I said, okay, he sounded like he listened a lot, I could tell. So I said, okay, come up to the radio station next Saturday. He came up, he had on a navy blue blazer, jean shirt, and jeans. I thought that's a very 80s look, and because you never pair jeans with jeans anymore. So anyway, he had this knack for being very, he was into, like I was, like the tightness of the board and segging the jingles and the music together. And I thought, this kid has promise. Good looking kid. So we became fast friends and I trained him for 9 months. And then in the Labor Day weekend, the boss was out of town and I'd worked like a triple shift. And I said, hey, buddy, you want to go on the air for me? You know how to do it. Because we'd been doing mock shows and I showed him how to run my board. And I would go down the hall and do production while I laid down voice tracks. He was great. He just had not been on the air. And so I put him on the air, which became the first air shift of his career. And then fast forward a few years later, he moved to LA, got an audition for a show called American Idol. And that's how Ryan Seacrest got his start.
Isn't that crazy?
I always like to reveal at the very end.
At the very end. It's mind-blowing to me.
How old were you when you started in radio?
So I started when I was 16 years old, but I started calling into the radio station, the local station in Atlanta, when I was 15 years old.
Who would you call? Who was the DJ?
I called a guy named Tom Sullivan, the night jock. Okay. After school, I'd get home, I'd call the request line, I'd try and get through to request a song and hear my voice back on the air.
So, number one, very similar to you, like you just wanted somebody to give you a chance, right? Yeah, and it was like, you said yes. You could have said yes to any one of the hundreds of kids calling you every night, but you said yes to him. Do you remember like what it was about him that you were like, let's give this kid a chance?
It was everything that when he came up, he had this quick wit. He was very sharp. He grasped the whole concept of radio and, listening to the segue and the mechanically minded. And he was able to know how to keep a tight board when I was showing him, hey, look how we're going to run this on there. I have one of the very first times I ever put on the air. I'll have to let you have that.
You have, oh my God, please, Tom.
It's not him a solo. It's just him doing a call for me.
I don't care. That's great.
We did a little bit.
Star 94 FM, it's Tom Sullivan. U2 tickets went on sale today. How's it been going? Anybody got any tickets yet, huh?
Yeah, I've been trying to reach Ticketmaster all day. The lines have been busy since 10 o'clock this morning.
And then also talking about mentoring people, that's what Ryan did. I have the tape on this too. Probably a few years ago when he was on Live with Kelly, he received an award, Giants of Broadcasting, and he got up there and he gave props to me for mentoring him in his career. And roll the tape.
16, I got my first internship at Star 94, WSTR, Smyrna, Atlanta. Tom Sullivan was the night jock at the time, and he took my call on the toll-free request line, which I called often. And that opened the door for me to the world of broadcasting. For him and there at that station, I did everything from ordering his pizza to splicing his reel-to-reel tapes. It didn't really matter what I did. I was hooked on broadcasting for the very first time I walked into that radio station. That internship changed the course of my life, and I owe a lot to Tom for giving me that first job that had a real time card that I could punch.
Exactly. Thank you for that. It makes me pee myself. I can't.
All the time. And so, you know what? And then I had the when he came to town a month ago to open up his 14th Seacrest Studios, which was actually
they're in the
just
hospitals,
relocated.
right?
Yeah, yes, at children's hospitals around the country. And he could not have been more gracious. He has his social media guy, I forgot his name, but he travels with him wherever he goes, does all of his pictures and video, and then edits it and puts it up. And he called him over, and we just did this exchange that was so raw and real. And he was fantastic. And then he got up on the stage to open and cut the ribbon, and he gave me props again. And so really, I was just blown away. And I
love that.
Yeah.
But that's how important mentorship is, right? You could have been the radio guy that's like, dude, I'm barely making it. Like, I want to focus on my own career. But instead, you were like, yes, let's do this. And I love that because not everybody does that. Right? Like there's a lot of people that are just like, no, I'm in it for me. And I think that what I've realized, especially trying to grow this, is that by helping other people and realizing like, I can give you the formula, but you're not me and I'm not you. And so you're not my competition. Does that make sense? Where it's like, I feel like there's so many people feel like they're competing, but it's like, we can all do the same thing. How many radio stations are there? But we're all not going to necessarily succeed at it.
This is so interesting because a friend of mine, there's like 6 realtors that live on my street, and we're really good friends with one. And so my partner sold a property, and then this person down the street got all bent out of shape about it. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a lot of real estate out there. You know what? You should be championing him, for what has happened, and I think the same thing applies in any kind of business. We can be selfish and self-centered, but if someone needs help, lend a hand. I mean, listen, WWJD, what would Jesus do? Okay. Reach out, and help someone. I mean, life's short, and I'm all about giving someone, empowerment and lifting them up to help them, and they'll always will remember it. Like case in point, there's a kid, I work at a radio station called Fox FM, and there's a kid who is starting out as the mascot for our country station. And he's a young country artist. So what did I do about a year ago? I built him a website, and I put his music up there and his pictures. And, I think that just the greatest gift, because in this world now, people is all about me. When actually it can be about you helping others.
there's enough of the pie to go around. Like magically, because we can all manifest our reality, there's enough for everybody. I thought you were going to say you mentored him on how to be a mascot. Did you not do that?
No, I did not. I did not. I know. I know. I said, Christian, his name is Christian. I said, hey, man, all you got, you do your own mascot thing. I went for the bigger buck, the higher end, his musical career, which is really good.
You're like, you got the mascot thing down. I don't need to teach you a thing.
That's right.
You
just
got it.
Squat and shake hands. Okay. You're meeting kids all the time.
Now that radio is changing, it's making a lot of cuts. You really haven't, have you really had to like not be in radio and tried to get a job in radio? Like, do you have advice for people that like lost their radio jobs? Because iHeart made cuts, Odyssey has made cuts. A lot of the bigger companies are just making cuts and they're just putting AI or.
Right. I mean, AI is scary, isn't it? It's kind of like the double-edged sword. But, you know, it won't be able to really match what a real human can bring for emotion and personality, you know?
And local, like if breaking news or something happens, you have to have a human there regardless.
Yes, you do. So probably just 2 years ago, there was a guy that used to work at Star 94 named Kevin Steele, and he did middays, and he went on to work at other stations around the country. And then he came back and started working for a radio station locally in Atlanta called Fox FM, owned by one guy who, believe it or not, when he was like in his teens, owned his first radio station in Carmel, California. And who was the guy out there? Clint Eastwood was his voice guy. And so,
who's the guy out there? Oh, Clint Eastwood.
Oh, Clint Eastwood. Yeah, he was like the mayor of this town, and he did some voiceover for the radio station. Well, fast forward, the guy that owns our radio station is named Chris Murray, and he worked for Cumulus for a while. And a high level position, and had great success with those radio stations. So he opened a station here in Atlanta called Fox FM. We're owned by one guy. We don't have a cancel culture. We're not woke. And we just have Southside Steve as our morning show host with Jeff Cole, who worked at different stations in town. Steve Mitchell, who worked at 96 Rock, works on our country station, The Bear, at 92.5. And so to be able to be back in radio again is really a blessing for me, because when I left radio in 2008, I was still doing it in my car, but no one could hear it. So I changed, you know, as you grow and evolve. I just kind of I said, I'm going to do it differently now that I have the confidence to do what I want, and no one's breathing down my neck as a consultant and a bunch of lawyers, you know. So it's a blessing to have in my hometown a station like this. To be able to get on the air every day from 4 to 7 and weekends.
You are the second radio personality that has told me go local and go small. There are smaller companies that will absolutely put their money behind you and bet on your personality.
Well, I'm not so sure about the money part.
Money.
Hold on, where's that quarter?
Okay, not the money part. Check.
There's a quarter over there, but it's not about the money, you know.
No,
I made hundreds of millions of dollars working, you know, morning drive, and so take off some. Oh, hold on. Here's my last one right here. Hold on, let me just pull this down. Here's my last $1 million bill I got. $1 million. But
oh my god.
$1 million.
So what did happen? So I left to come to Detroit. Yeah. You, Steve, and Vikki were still there. I think Jessica was the producer that replaced me. And then did they take Steve and Vikki off the air? Or did they like consciously move them over? Like, I honestly don't know what happened.
Okay. In 2008, actually it was 2007.
I left in 2007.
Okay, so mid year, Vikki said she had a health issue that was needed concern, and she needed to take time off. And so management decided this would be a good time to just let them go. And so they decided they were going to let me go. And then they went through this long process where they said, okay, we're going to bring you back and give you a year contract, which they did, and extended till June of 2008. But they let Steve and Vikki out, and I just stayed on the air working for them the last 2 months of the year, doing their shows. And
were you like board opping and then guest hosting?
Guest hosting, playing best of bits. So here's the kicker. They got a job at another radio station in town, B98.5, owned by Cox. and they had a 6-month non-compete, at least 6 months. But the non-compete did not specify that they couldn't do television. And so what happened was Cox did an ad and it started running on TV. Hi, we're Steve Vikki, and we're coming back to the radio.
Oh my God.
So that's how, so on July 1st, or that first week of July, Steve Vikki went on the air at B98.5 doing the morning show. But let me tell you what happened with me. In the end of 2007, at end of December, I signed off on the air and said, what a great time this has been. And I'm leaving and, have a 6-month non-compete, and they're going to let me fill in every now and then. Because my friend says, you've got to get out of there. They treated you horribly. But I said, no, how often can you work out a non-compete and still, have a presence in the marketplace? So I did get this. So I did some on-air shifts. And then the last weekend of my non-compete, I did 2 remotes for the radio station, Star 94.
Of course you did.
I did call-ins from 10 to 2 and then 3 to 6. And then I was done and my non-compete ended. And on that Monday, I went down and went on the air with Steve Vikki.
Oh my God, that is awesome.
And they were like, how could he betray us? How could he do this? Management was running around and someone brilliantly said, he didn't betray you. You let him work out his non-compete.
1,000%. 1,000%.
I thought I got the upper hand at that time. And I'm really glad the way it worked out,
It worked out perfectly. That's amazing. Oh my God.
It was great.
Are you happy to be back on radio? Do you love what you're doing? I mean, you've always loved doing it.
Love it. I've been just Thanksgiving 2022 is when I signed on, and I was doing middays, and then they asked me to swap with our voice guy named Hawk. He's this guy who's been there for 17 years with Chris, our owner, and he's just this incredible voice. When I first heard him 2 years ago, I thought, is this guy from Sirius XM? He sounds amazing. And now I get to work, with him and Southside Steve and Jeff Cole, and to just be on this one little station. But see, we have different frequencies all around the Georgia area. We have like 102.1 in Atlanta. Then we have 100.1 as you go out to Cobb County. Then we have 97.3 towards Alabama. Then we
can
have
I stream you?
You can stream us.
Okay.
Yeah. You can go to myfoxfm.com. You can just click listen live. We have an app, My Fox FM, and we also broadcast in Macon and Warner Robins, and we're expanding across the state.
That's amazing.
We don't have a big stick antenna like the other guys, so we have to have different frequencies. So that's how we get around.
Yeah, but you're also in a multimedia world. So now people can stream you from all over. They don't have to even be local, which is great.
Yes.
And then are you going to start doing more for your own brand online? Or are you just like, listen, Rachel, I'm at a certain age where I'm like, F this Instagram, Facebook, podcast, YouTube bullshit. I'm not doing it.
Yes. I love it. I love your rawness, because the past couple of years, I have grown sick of how Facebook has, and social media, what it's become.
Oh, Meta stole your audience. Meta basically said, if you want your audience beyond the 1% of organic reach to see it, you have to pay us. And they made $36 billion off that last year. They're not going to stop.
No. And I don't care about, I used to think like, I've got to get more friends and all that. What? Remember, what was it? Not before Facebook, it was MySpace. And that was my introduction to social media. But now, over the past year, I have gone on and taken almost everything off my Facebook listen, this is something kind of frightening. And you know this. If you go into your Facebook settings and you request a download of all your stuff, you're going to get a massive file. Every like, every post, every search, everything you've ever done, every time you took a breath, it's all there. Like the police always feel like somebody's watching me. Same thing on any social media. Data is key. And I got tired of sharing all my data. So I'm pulling all my crap off, and I only have about you can scroll my whole wall in a couple of swoops. Go back to 2008. I probably got maybe 10 things on there.
So you're going to have to send me stuff then. Because I'm not going to be able to scrape the internet for your stuff. What about YouTube? So the good thing about YouTube is that it's owned by Google, so you get that SEO. And then YouTube, eventually, if you get enough subscribers and enough watch time, they'll send you money through AdSense. But it's a slow burn, and I get you're like, this, I don't want to do more stuff. I get it. I just like want to share you with the world. I feel so lucky that it was, even though it was just 2 years, that I got to know you for those 2 years and got to work with you because you're such a talented human being.
Oh, wow.
Well, and you're so
kind.
funny.
You
You're
lift me up. You really do.
being the street guy. Sending you out there would almost vomit each time before you went out because I was so nervous because there's so many unknowns. How did you get over the nerves to just be in that moment and do whatever it is that Steve and Vikki wanted you to do?
I didn't like it. I didn't like any of that. And that came across on the air, right?
Oh,
because
100%.
I didn't like going out there and doing that. And I just wanted to stay there in the comfort of the studio, but they would send me out to do this stuff. Like the stuff Vikki came up with, I don't know. I just was, I remember when I had to be tackled, I went to the South Lake area of town and I had to be tackled. The first person to tackle me won AirTran tickets and we were live and I had a bag phone back then. Remember the bag phones? It was like radiating this, million megawatts EMFs all over my body. And, I had to, so the guy tackled me and I had the phone in my hand and my fingers hit the touch tones just as I said every cuss word I could think of. It was like brilliantly placed. And I didn't like some of the stuff I had to do. I really didn't. And it came across on the air.
But that's why it was funny, but that was why it was funny to Steve and Vikki is because you didn't want to do it. So that energy of you not wanting to do it, but then hitting it a home run every time.
And I don't like heights. And I had to get up when Seinfeld had their last episode. I went down to the apparel mart on the 9th floor. There's a billboard out there. And they made me go out there and stand. And I had the most tightened sphincter I've ever had because I was like, and I was 9 stories up. And so actually what I did is I went to my kinesiologist the day before and I visualized being up there and he adjusted me to give it me a little more of a relaxed when I got there, like quantum jumping. So.
Which I love that. Oh my God. And like doing like future visualizations of like who future Rachel is. What was one of the street scams that they had you do that you pushed back on that you were like, I'm not doing it?
Very rarely did I say no.
You were wrapped in bubble wrap. Were you wrapped in bubble wrap and thrown downstairs? What was it?
Yeah, that was stupid. Steve McCoy said he'd bring a helmet for me to roll down the stairs at Underground Atlanta. And it was stupid because the helmet didn't fit and I could have hit my head on the railing and oh my God. So the angels were there pushing me out of the way. But one of the things I did most that I really, really loved and I really looked forward to it. And it was so funny. And when you start laughing doing these things there was an old beat up, cushioned chair on the side of a major freeway called Georgia 400. And people had seen it and they called Steve Vikki. They said, hey, there's a chair there on the side of the freeway. Would you send Tom out to get it? And they thought that was great. So I go up there, I put it in the station van. It's covered in leaves. The big upholstered arm is breaking off. And I took it up to the Walmart in Roswell, Georgia. And I put it on top of the shopping cart. And I just said, all right, Steve and Vikki, I'm going into the store. Because I ran the microphone down my arm, so they couldn't see that I had the bag phone under my arm. And so I get in there and I go, oh, hi, I'd like to return this chair. I bought it at, got it here. And they said, we don't sell furniture. I'm sorry. I said, I got it at Sam's Club. And I said, listen, I don't want money for it. I'll just take a cash credit. I'll be on my way. If you just go ahead and ring this up. She goes, one moment, please. Manager to the front, manager. Well, he comes up and this has been going on for like 10 minutes. And he goes, oh, who are you talking to on the phone there? Are you talking? I said, I'm talking to my mom and dad. Are their names Steve and Vikki? Because he was listening in the back.
Of course he was. Everybody was listening. Oh my God, that's so funny.
It was great. That was one of my favorites because I love retail and I love merchandising. So that was kind of like a chance to have fun there. But most of the scary stuff I didn't like. And, I'm trying to think.
But you did it anyway. I think also it shows that like when you detach from the outcome, right? Because nobody knew what really was going to happen, right? There was like, hey, best case scenario, it's funny. Worst case scenario, Tom gets arrested or his ass beat.
Yes, it's true.
What advice do you have for people just in general about life, about anything? Because I don't know, you just, anything you say, I will do and listen to.
Okay, well, listen, I have a strong faith, which I was born and raised, as a Catholic. I'm not going to get into a religion thing here, but I didn't really, I stopped going to church until I got fired from my radio job and then my TV job, and I had no job. And so to me, what happened was I felt like the table was wiped clean of radio and TV. And who is that defines Tom Sullivan? That's not your job. It's who are you at the core? It's like that bloomin' onion at Outback Steakhouse, and you peel it away to get to the middle. I always have a food metaphor, And so that really redefined me, and I rebuilt who I was from inside and what really mattered. I mean, and I just, I think if you embrace life with what can be and not what is not, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. I think that when you don't come from a place of lack, when you're not thinking about what you don't have, and when you're not comparing yourself, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And I think as a creator, right? Because we're all creators in many different ways. So that's why I always call everybody like you're a creator. When you decide to be a creator, not a consumer, content and the way you look at things kind of changes, right? Like everything it could be a topic for you on the radio, right?
Sure.
Everything is like a reel for me on Instagram or a vlog on YouTube, right? When you see things differently because you choose to be a creator, whether it's manifestation or just life in general, everything changes. And so I love that you've never come from a place of lack. You've always come from a place of possibility.
And I want to also add, to people out there, I see these young kids, like, a friend of mine who is a real estate, she has her own team. And I see these young kids, just like in any job, kids would come through their turnstile at the radio station when I was working at Star 94, and they would go, I want to be on the air right now. I don't want to work overnight. So I just want to go, there was no one, they didn't have any gratitude. They weren't humble. Yeah, you got to be humble. You got to have gratitude. Be grateful for everything you have in your life. Like, you know what? Listen, I always say I'm so grateful that I can stand here and load the dishwasher, that I can do the laundry. It's all how you frame it. If you go, oh, I got to do the laundry again. No, you get to do the laundry, because guess what? There's people in the hospital who can't get out of bed who would love to be in your shoes. Okay.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I know that you are you're involved in different charities. Is there anything coming up that you want to shout out? Or like, if you want to hire Tom as an MC, you can fly him out anywhere. He's actually a great
as
MC.
long as the check clears. Okay. Yes. You can go to my website is tomonair.com, and you can just go there and learn all about, what I do. I'm a corporate host and MC and a charity MC, but I tell you what, I do love hosting charity events, because you know what, back before when I worked at the radio station, I would just take, the sales department would say, do you want to do it? And I'd say, yes, I'll do it. I didn't even know what it was, but now it's like, I'll say no if it doesn't resonate with my heart and my soul, because I'm not going to sell something if I don't believe in it. So I'm all about, I love hosting charity events, but corporate events have good money too. So corporate events,
as long as it aligns with Tom and the check cashes, we're good.
And also, the corporate events, I'm good at, I think if they let me infuse my personality a little bit without being so stuffy, because I think
you're amazing and you're not dirty. Like, you're just funny. Tom, thank you so much for joining me. I love you. If I was in Atlanta, I'd probably be over your house all the time because I miss you so much.